2 years after the first shot was fired, Admiral Thexara sat alone in her quarters, staring at a single message on her personal communication device. The war was over, but not in any way she could have imagined. The message was from Admiral Sarah Chen. It contained no demands for surrender, no threats of destruction, no angry words about revenge. Instead, it was something far more terrifying, a detailed analysis of exactly how humanity had won the war. Admiral Thexara, the message began. By the time you read this, the Zephyrian High Command will have received our formal terms for ending this conflict. But before you make your decision, I want you to understand exactly what happened over the past 24 months. Thexara activated the full file, and data began scrolling across her screen. Technical specifications, tactical analyses, strategic assessments, psychological profiles. Everything the humans had learned about the Zephyrian Empire, organized with terrifying precision. Phase 1. Assessment. We allowed your initial attacks to succeed while we studied your technology, tactics, and psychology. Every ship you destroyed, every battle you won, gave us information we needed. We sacrificed 40,000 of our people to learn how to defeat you. The Admiral felt sick as she read the detailed breakdown. Every human defeat in the early months had been carefully analyzed. Every casualty had contributed data to massive databases that tracked Zephyrian weaknesses. Phase 2. Adaptation. Using captured technology and battlefield intelligence, we reverse-engineered your weapons and improved them. Our engineers had one advantage you did not expect. We were not limited by tradition or elegance. We only cared about effectiveness. The file included technical schematics showing human modifications to Zephyrian plasma weapons. The changes were crude, ugly, and devastatingly efficient. Human versions were 3 times more powerful than the originals. Phase 3. Infiltration. While you focused on large fleet actions, we sent small forces deep into your territory. We did not seek to conquer, but to gather intelligence and demonstrate our reach. By month 12, we could strike any target in Zephyrian space without warning. A tactical map showed human operations throughout the galaxy. Red lines traced their movement patterns, revealing how they had used captured cloaking technology and superior logistics to appear anywhere they chose. Phase 4. Psychological warfare. We studied your culture and values, then used them against you. Zephyrians value peace, family, and rational discussion. We made sure your people understood the true cost of this war and the real reason it started. The file contained recordings of human broadcasts to Zephyrian colonies. Each message was carefully crafted to maximize emotional impact. They showed footage of the destroyed research station, interviews with families of the dead, and detailed explanations of how the war had started. Phase 5. Strategic superiority. By month 18, we possessed overwhelming advantages in technology, intelligence, and logistics. We could have ended the war through military conquest, but we chose a different path. Thexara paused reading to look at her latest intelligence reports. Human industrial capacity now exceeded the entire Zephyrian Empire by a factor of 12. Their fleets outnumbered Zephyrian forces 3-1, and each human ship was individually superior to its Zephyrian equivalent. The message continued. Admiral, I want you to understand that everything your forces encountered was a limited demonstration of human military capability. We have weapons we did not use, tactics we did not employ, and strategies we did not implement. A new section opened, revealing technical specifications that made Thexara's blood freeze. Antimatter bombs capable of destroying planets. Biological weapons designed to target specific alien genetics. Nanoscale machines that could dismantle entire space stations from within. These weapons exist, Admiral. They are tested, functional, and ready for deployment. We chose not to use them because our war was never with the Zephyrian people. Our war was with the government that ordered the murder of innocent researchers. The next section contained detailed psychological profiles of every major Zephyrian leader, including Thexara herself. The humans had analyzed her command decisions, personal history, and emotional responses with scientific precision. We know you, Admiral Thexara. We know that you joined the military to explore the galaxy, not to conquer it. We know that you regret the attack on our research station. We know that you have been questioning this war for months. The Admiral closed her eyes, shaken by the accuracy of the assessment. The humans had understood her better than she understood herself. Which brings us to our final lesson, Admiral. You asked your science officers how a primitive species could defeat the Zephyrian Empire. Here is your answer. A new file opened containing historical data from Earth. Thousands of years of human warfare, from stone axes to nuclear weapons. Detailed records of conflicts, casualties, technological advancement, and strategic evolution. You attacked a species that spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. While your people developed philosophy, art, and peaceful exploration, humans developed increasingly sophisticated ways to kill each other. We turned warfare into a science before we ever left our planet. The file showed statistical analyses of human conflicts throughout history. The progression was terrifying. Each war more destructive than the last. Each generation developing deadlier weapons and more effective tactics. Every human conflict taught us lessons that we applied to the next war. We learned logistics from the Romans, strategy from the Chinese, technology from 2 world wars, and asymmetric tactics from dozens of smaller conflicts. By the time we reached space, we had thousands of years of military experience. Thexara scrolled through examples, ancient siege warfare that taught humans patience and planning, medieval battles that demonstrated the importance of supply lines, modern conflicts that showed how to coordinate massive industrial efforts for military purposes. When you destroyed our research station, you were not attacking a peaceful species learning to explore space. You were attacking a species that had spent millennia becoming the most efficient killers in the galaxy. The message included a final tactical assessment that demolished every assumption the Zephyrian Empire had made about human capabilities. Current human military strength, 4,700 active warships, with production capacity for 500 additional vessels per month. Our technology is now 50 years ahead of yours in every category. Our intelligence networks monitor all major Zephyrian communications. Our strategic position allows us to strike any target in your territory within 72 hours. The numbers were overwhelming. The Zephyrian Empire had become outmatched in every possible way. But Admiral, here is the most important thing you need to understand. We have been holding back. Everything you have seen represents approximately 15% of human military capability. We have been fighting this war with training exercises while we built our real weapons. A final section opened, showing production schedules for weapons that could end civilizations, planetary bombardment systems, stellar manipulation technology, and strategic weapons designed for galactic warfare. We built these weapons not because we wanted to use them, but because we needed you to understand the reality of your situation. You started a war with the wrong species, Admiral Thexara. The message concluded with a simple statement that would haunt Thexara for the rest of her life. Congratulations, Admiral. You only started a war with the most deadly species in the galaxy. We accept your surrender and offer peace terms that will allow both our civilizations to coexist. But remember this lesson. Never mistake human exploration for human weakness. When we choose peace, it is not because we cannot make war. It is because we know exactly how terrible war can be. The file ended with a personal note. Admiral, we hope your people will choose to remember this conflict as a lesson rather than a tragedy. Humanity seeks no empire, no conquest, no dominance over other species. We want only to explore the universe in peace. But we will never again allow anyone to mistake our peaceful intentions for military weakness. Thexara set down the communication device and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the galaxy, watching, waiting, ready to respond to any threat with overwhelming force. The Zephyrian Empire would surrender. They had no choice. But the galaxy had learned something far more important. Humanity was no longer a young species taking its first steps into space. They had become something ancient and terrible and wise. The most dangerous predators in the galaxy were the ones who chose not to hunt. 3 days later, the Zephyrian High Command formally surrendered. The war ended not with a battle, but with a simple understanding. Some species were too dangerous to fight, and humanity was one of them. The galaxy quietly updated its first contact protocols. A new rule appeared in every diplomatic manual. Avoid the humans at all costs, not because they were evil, but because they were the most efficient killers who had ever evolved. And they were still learning. The massive space station floating near the galaxy's center looked like a giant metal flower. Its petals were meeting halls where thousands of alien species gathered to make decisions that affected billions of lives across the stars. Sarah Chen walked through the corridors with steady steps, Her black diplomatic uniform stood out among the colorful robes and strange body coverings of the other representatives. Some aliens had fur, others had scales, and a few looked like walking trees. They all stared at her as she passed. Humans had been part of the Galactic Council for 50 years now. 50 long years of being treated like children who didn't know any better. The other species called humans the newcomers or the primitives behind their backs. Sometimes they said it to their faces. Sarah entered the main council chamber. The room was huge, with thousands of seats arranged in circles that went up toward the ceiling. In the center sat Chairman Vextar, a creature that looked like a giant insect with 6 arms. His species, the hegemony, had been running the council for over 1,000 years. The meeting began like all the others. Chairman Vextar's voice echoed through the chamber as he spoke about trade routes and mining rights. Sarah listened as one species after another was given permission to expand their territory or extract resources from uninhabited worlds. Then came the matter that would change everything. Item 847 on today's agenda, Chairman Vextar announced, the request to establish a xenological research facility on the Earth satellite known as Luna. Sarah's blood turned cold. Luna was Earth's moon. Over 3 million humans lived there in cities built under protective domes. It was humanity's first major colony beyond Earth. A representative from the Crystalline Consortium stood up. His body looked like living glass that caught and reflected the chamber's lights. The moon contains rare minerals essential for our quantum computers. We need these materials to advance galactic technology. Another alien, this one covered in blue fur, added her voice. The human colonies can be relocated. We will provide suitable compensation and new homes on approved worlds. Sarah stood up slowly. The Terran Federation objects to this proposal. Luna has been humanity's home for 2 centuries. Our people were born there. Their families are buried there. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter, but the kind adults make when a child says something silly. Chairman Vextar held up one of his 6 hands. Ambassador Chen, we understand your emotional attachment. However, the needs of galactic civilization must come before local sentiments. The Crystalline Consortium's research will benefit everyone. Including humans? Sarah asked. Of course. In time, you will receive the technological advances that result from this research. As your species develops, you will appreciate the wisdom of this decision. More laughter from the assembled representatives. Sarah had heard these same words for 50 years. Always the same message. Humans were too young, too primitive, too emotional to understand what was best for them. The vote proceeded quickly. Species after species raised their hands, tentacles, or claws in favor of the proposal. Sarah watched the count climb higher and higher. 847 votes in favor. Only 1 against. Earth. The motion passes, Chairman Vextar declared. Construction of the xenological research facility will begin within 6 standard months. The human colonies will be relocated to suitable worlds in the Outer Rim territories. Sarah remained standing as the chamber began to buzz with conversation about the next agenda item. She cleared her throat, and the sound somehow carried across the massive room. Slowly, the noise died down. The Terran Federation has an announcement, she said. Chairman Vextar looked annoyed. Ambassador Chen, the matter has been decided. There will be no further debate. This isn't about Luna, Sarah replied. Her voice was calm, but there was something in it that made the entire chamber fall silent. This is about humanity's place in the galaxy. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a data pad. The Terran Federation hereby formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. All treaties, trade agreements, and diplomatic accords between humanity and Council members are now null and void. The silence that followed was so complete that Sarah could hear the hum of the station's life support systems. Then the chamber exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some laughed. Others seemed angry. A few appeared shocked. Chairman Vextar slammed his gavel repeatedly until order returned. Ambassador Chen, surely you don't mean this. Your species cannot survive without council protection and technology. You will reconsider. Sarah smiled, but her eyes remained cold. We've given this decision careful consideration. Humanity will chart its own course among the stars from now on. A representative from the Aquatic Federation rose from his water-filled chair. This is impossible. Your ships use our navigation systems. Your colonies depend on our supply networks. Your military uses council-standard weapons and shields. Your point? Sarah asked. You'll be isolated, another alien called out. cut off from galactic civilization. We'll see, Sarah said simply. Chairman Vexitar leaned forward in his chair. You're making a terrible mistake. The galaxy is a dangerous place for a species alone. There are pirates, rogue civilizations, ancient automated weapons that attack anything they don't recognize. The Council's protection has kept humanity safe. Has it? Sarah asked. Or has it kept humanity controlled? The chairman's insect-like face showed what might have been anger. You'll come crawling back within a solar cycle begging for readmission. When you do, the terms will not be as generous as they are today. Sarah gathered her papers and closed her datapad. Perhaps. Or perhaps the galaxy will discover that humanity has more to offer than anyone realized. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. At the door she paused and looked back. One more thing, she said. All human personnel working in Council facilities, all human ships serving in Council fleets, and all human civilians living on Council worlds will be returning home. We expect full cooperation in this process, and if we refuse, Chairman Vexitar asked. Sarah's smile grew wider but somehow less friendly. Then you'll discover that humanity learned more during our 50 years of membership than anyone suspected. She left the chamber without another word. Behind her, the greatest political gathering in galactic history erupted into chaos as thousands of representatives tried to understand what had just happened. Outside in the corridor, Sarah activated her communicator. Control, this is Ambassador Chen. Execute Protocol 7. Confirmed, Ambassador. Protocol 7 is active. All human assets are returning home. As Sarah walked to her ship, she thought about the years of planning that had led to this moment. The other species saw humans as primitive newcomers, but they had missed something important. Humans were very good at learning. They were even better at pretending to be less capable than they really were. The galaxy was about to discover just how much humanity had learned during their 50 years of being underestimated. Her ship lifted off from the station's docking bay and turned toward the distant yellow star where Earth waited. Behind her, the council chamber continued to buzz with confusion and anger. They would understand soon enough. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would no longer be asking for permission. The attack came from beyond the galactic rim where no civilized species lived. Admiral Cass received the first reports while reviewing supply shortages caused by the ongoing human situation. Admiral, we're getting distress signals from the outer territories, her communications officer reported. Multiple star systems under attack by unknown forces. Admiral Cass looked up from her datapad. The outer territories were frontier worlds, barely defended mining colonies and research stations. Pirates? No, sir. The attacking ships don't match any known design. They appear to be fully automated and extremely hostile. Within hours, it became clear that this was no ordinary raid. The attackers called themselves the Void Singers, though they never spoke in any language the Council could understand. Their ships were black as space itself and moved with perfect coordination. Worse, they seemed to learn from every battle, adapting their tactics and technology to counter whatever the defenders threw at them. Chairman Vexitar called an emergency session of the Security Council. Representatives from the galaxy's major military powers gathered to plan their response. We're dealing with a mechanical race, reported General Crix of the Hegemony. Our xenobiologists believe they're ancient automated weapons from a dead civilization. They've awakened and see all organic life as a threat to be eliminated. The Crystalline Consortium's military advisor added, their technology adapts in real time. Energy weapons that work in the first battle become useless in the second. They seem to evolve faster than we can develop new strategies. Admiral Cass stood before the holographic display showing the invasion's progress. They've taken 17 systems in the past month. At this rate, they'll reach the mid-rim territories within 6 months. Chairman Vexitar's 6 arms moved in the gesture that meant determination among his species. The Galactic Council has faced threats before. We will mobilize the Grand Fleet and crush these machines before they penetrate further into civilized space. The Grand Fleet was the Council's pride, a massive armada representing the combined military might of hundreds of species. It had kept peace in the galaxy for 1,000 years. Surely it could handle one group of ancient machines, no matter how advanced. The fleet assembled at Nexus Point, a strategic location near the Rim territories. Over 10,000 ships from dozens of species formed the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Cass commanded from the flagship, a hegemony dreadnought 3 kilometers long. The first major battle took place in the Kepler system. The Void Singers arrived with a fleet half the size of the Grand Fleet, their black ships moving like a dark cloud through space. All units, engage the enemy, Admiral Cass ordered. The battle began well. Council forces outnumbered the invaders 2-1, and their initial assault destroyed dozens of enemy ships. But then something strange happened. The Void Singer ships began to change, their hulls shifting and adapting. Weapons that had been effective minutes before suddenly did no damage at all. "Admiral, our quantum torpedoes aren't penetrating their shields anymore," reported the weapons officer. "Switch to plasma cannons." "Plasma cannons are also ineffective. It's like they've developed immunity to our weapons." Worse than the adaptation was the communication breakdown. The Grand Fleet had always prided itself on perfect coordination between different species' forces. But now orders were arriving minutes late. Supply ships couldn't find the vessels they were supposed to resupply. Fighter squadrons from different species attacked the same targets while leaving other areas undefended. Admiral Cass realized with growing horror that their communication systems, which had worked flawlessly for decades, were falling apart under the stress of actual combat. The improvements that human technicians had made over the years weren't just conveniences. They had been essential for the fleet's operation. The battle turned into a disaster. The Grand Fleet's superior numbers meant nothing when they couldn't coordinate their attacks. The Void Singers tore through the disorganized forces like a sword through paper. "Admiral, we're receiving retreat orders from half our ships," the communications officer reported. "But I can't confirm these orders through normal channels." "Sir, the Zephyrian contingent is requesting permission to withdraw. They say their ship's life support systems are failing." "Ma'am, 3 crystalline vessels just jumped to hyperspace without authorization." Admiral Cass watched her fleet fall apart around her. These were the same ships and crews that had maintained galactic peace for centuries. They should have been able to defeat any enemy. Instead, they were fleeing in panic from a force they outnumbered. The retreat became a rout. Over half the Grand Fleet was destroyed or disabled. The survivors limped back to Council space with stories of an enemy that couldn't be defeated. Chairman Vextar refused to accept the reports. "Impossible. Our fleet represents 1,000 years of military development. These machines cannot be superior to the combined forces of galactic civilization." But the invasion continued. System after system fell to the Void Singers. Their black ships moved deeper into Council territory, leaving dead worlds behind them. Refugee ships flooded toward the core systems, bringing stories of planets stripped of all life. In desperation, the Council authorized a secret mission. If they couldn't defeat the invaders through military force, perhaps they could learn something that would help. A small, fast ship would travel to the Sol system to see what humanity was doing about the crisis. Captain Yorth commanded the stealth vessel that made the journey to Earth. His crew included the Council's best scientists and intelligence officers. They expected to find a broken human civilization, begging for rescue from the approaching invasion. What they found instead left them speechless. The Sol system bustled with activity that put the busiest Council worlds to shame. Massive orbital shipyards surrounded Earth, constructing vessels unlike anything in Council databases. The ships were sleek and elegant but clearly built for war. They moved with a grace that made Council vessels look clumsy in comparison. "Captain," his science officer whispered, "I'm reading energy signatures I don't recognize. These ships use technology that shouldn't be possible." Around Earth's moon, the same moon the Council had voted to strip mine, defensive platforms floated in perfect formation. Each platform generated energy readings that suggested weapons capable of destroying a Council dreadnought with a single shot. "Sir, there are hundreds of human ships in this system. Maybe thousands. Where did they all come from?" Captain Yorth had no answer. The humans had supposedly left the Council with a handful of primitive vessels. Now they commanded a fleet that dwarfed anything the Council could assemble. His communications officer looked up from her console with confusion. "Captain, I'm detecting transmissions throughout the system, but they're not using any known communication protocol. It's like the ships are talking to each other in a language we've never heard. Can you decode it? I'm trying, but it's unlike anything in our databases. The transmission speed is incredible. They're exchanging more information in seconds than our fastest systems can handle in hours." As Captain Yorth watched, A formation of human ships left the system at a speed that shouldn't have been possible. They moved faster than light without using hyperspace drives, simply fading away as if they had never existed. "Track their destination," he ordered. His navigator worked frantically at his controls. "Sir, according to these readings, they're heading toward the Void Singer invasion fleet. They'll reach the front lines in less than a day." Captain Yorth realized that humanity hadn't been hiding from the invasion. They had been preparing for it. While the Council struggled with failing technology and broken communication systems, the humans had been building something entirely new. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for 50 years. Now it was about to discover the price of that mistake. Captain Yorth's stealth ship followed the human fleet at a safe distance, using every trick in the Council's intelligence handbook to avoid detection. What his crew witnessed over the next few days changed their understanding of everything they thought they knew about humanity. The human ships moved through space in perfect formation, but not the rigid formations taught in Council military academies. Instead, they flowed like a living thing, each vessel responding instantly to the other's movements. There were no communication delays, no confusion about orders, no arguments between different commanders. "Captain," his science officer reported, "I've been analyzing their movement patterns. It's impossible for ships to coordinate this precisely across such distances. The speed of light itself should prevent this level of synchronization. Then how are they doing it?" "I don't know, sir. It's like they're all controlled by a single mind." When the human fleet reached the Void Singer invasion force, Captain Yorth expected to witness another disaster like the one that had destroyed the Grand Fleet. The Void Singers had proven they could adapt to any weapon, overcome any defense, and coordinate their attacks with mechanical precision. The battle that followed lasted exactly 17 minutes. The human ships didn't engage in traditional space combat. Instead, they seemed to dance around the Void Singer vessels, their weapons creating patterns of energy that looked more like art than warfare. Every human shot hit its target with perfect accuracy. Every movement avoided enemy fire by the smallest possible margin. "Sir, the human weapons are unlike anything we've cataloged," the science officer whispered. "They're not using energy beams or projectiles. It's like they're rewriting the fundamental structure of matter itself." The Void Singer ships, which had adapted to every Council weapon within minutes, found themselves unable to counter the human attacks. Their black hulls began to change color, cycling through the entire spectrum as their adaptive systems tried desperately to find a defense that worked. But the most shocking moment came when the Void Singer fleet simply stopped moving. Every ship froze in space simultaneously, their weapons powering down, their engines going silent. "What happened?" Captain Yorth asked. His communications officer looked up from her console with wide eyes. "Sir, I'm detecting massive data transmissions from the human fleet to the Void Singer ships. It's like they're having a conversation, but at a speed no organic mind could follow." "A conversation?" "More than that, sir. It looks like the humans just took control of the entire Void Singer network. The battle was over. The invasion force that had terrorized the galaxy for months hung motionless in space, completely under human control. A few human ships approached the disabled vessels, presumably to study their technology. Captain Yorth ordered his ship to retreat to a safe distance while his crew tried to process what they had witnessed. The humans hadn't just defeated the Void Singers. They had demonstrated technology that made both the Council and the invaders look primitive. "Prepare a full report for Chairman Vextar," he ordered. "Include everything we've observed. The Council needs to know what we're dealing with." But when they tried to send their report, they discovered that human ships had quietly surrounded their position. They had been detected despite their advanced stealth technology. A communication channel opened, and Ambassador Sarah Chen's face appeared on their screen. She looked exactly as she had 6 months earlier, calm and composed. "Captain Yorth," she said with a slight smile, "we've been expecting you." The captain felt his blood turn cold. "Ambassador Chen, we're on a peaceful reconnaissance mission." "Of course you are. The Council wants to understand what happened to the Grand Fleet and how we dealt with the Void Singers." "How did you know we were here?" Sarah's smile grew wider. "Captain, we've known about every Council ship that entered human space for the past 50 years. Did you really think our sensor technology was as primitive as we let you believe?" Over the next hour, Sarah Chen revealed the truth that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of human civilization. For 50 years, humanity had been playing the greatest deception in galactic history. We knew from the moment we joined the Council that we were different, she explained. Other species develop technology slowly over thousands of years. Humans advance exponentially. What takes other races centuries to develop, we can accomplish in decades. Captain Yorth found his voice. But your ships, your cities, your technology when you joined the Council were deliberately designed to look primitive. We studied Council technology for months before making first contact. We built ships that appeared slightly inferior to the galactic standard. We pretended to struggle with concepts that our children could understand. Why? Because we needed time to learn. The galaxy is vast and full of dangers we didn't understand. By appearing weak, we gained access to Council knowledge while no one perceived us as a threat. The science officer asked the question that had been bothering him since the battle. How do your ships coordinate so perfectly? How do you communicate faster than light? Sarah hesitated for a moment, then seemed to make a decision. 50 years ago, humans developed consciousness transfer technology, not uploading minds to computers, but linking living consciousness across vast distances. Every human ship crew shares a collective awareness while maintaining individual personalities. That's impossible, is it? The hegemony uses pheromone communication. The crystalline consortium thinks in quantum probabilities. The Aquatic Federation navigates by electromagnetic fields. Why is human neural networking any stranger than those abilities? Captain Yorth realized he was seeing the tip of an iceberg. What else have you been hiding? For 50 years, human engineers worked throughout the galaxy, improving Council technology. You thought we were trying to make our primitive systems compatible with yours. In reality, we were studying your weaknesses while making ourselves indispensable. The system failures began the moment we withdrew our support. We weren't just participants in galactic civilization, Captain. We were its nervous system. Every major communication network, every advanced computer system, every piece of technology that made the Council function smoothly, it all depended on human improvements. The revelation was staggering. Humanity hadn't been struggling to keep up with galactic technology. They had been secretly surpassing it while pretending to lag behind. The Void Singers, Captain Yorth said. How did you defeat them so easily? They're machines, Captain. Very sophisticated machines, but machines nonetheless. Once we understood their programming language, taking control was simple. They're actually quite useful. We're converting them from weapons of destruction into tools of construction. You're not destroying them? Why would we? They represent thousands of years of advanced engineering. We'll reprogram them to help rebuild the worlds they damaged. Sarah Chen leaned forward in her chair. Captain, humanity is offering the galaxy a choice. The old system of rigid hierarchy and slow technological progress, or something new, something better. And if the Council refuses, then the Council will discover that the galaxy has already changed, whether they acknowledge it or not. The question isn't whether humanity will lead the galaxy into a new age. The question is whether other species will choose to join us or be left behind. Captain Yorth realized that his mission had failed before it began. He had come to spy on a broken human civilization. Instead, he had discovered that humanity was offering the galaxy its first real chance at advancement in 1,000 years. The only question now was whether the Council would be wise enough to accept. Captain Yorth returned to Council space with news that sent shockwaves through every government and military command. The emergency session that followed was the largest gathering in Council history, with representatives from over 2,000 species crowding into the Great Chamber. Chairman Vextar read the report aloud, his voice growing quieter with each revelation. When he finished, the chamber remained silent for a full minute. This cannot be accurate, declared General Crix of the hegemony. No species could deceive the entire galaxy for 50 years. The evidence is overwhelming, Captain Yorth replied. I witnessed their capabilities firsthand. The humans aren't just more advanced than we thought. They're more advanced than we can imagine. The crystalline consortium's representative, her glass-like body flickering with agitated light patterns, stood to address the chamber. If this report is true, then humanity has violated every treaty they signed. They've been spying on us, manipulating our technology, infiltrating our systems. To what end? Asked the delegate from the Aquatic Federation. If they possessed such power, why didn't they simply conquer us 50 years ago? Ambassador Sarah Chen's voice answered from the chamber's communication system. She hadn't been invited to speak, but somehow her signal was broadcasting throughout the station. Because conquest was never our goal, she said calmly. We came to learn from galactic civilization, not to destroy it. Security officers rushed to locate the source of the transmission, but their efforts were futile. Sarah's image appeared on every screen in the chamber, indicating that humans had complete access to Council communication systems. You've been spying on us for 50 years, Chairman Vextar accused. We've been studying you, Sarah corrected. Learning your languages, understanding your cultures, appreciating your achievements. Humanity has tremendous respect for what the Council has accomplished. Then why withdraw? Why allow the Void Singer invasion to devastate our territories? Sarah's expression grew serious. Because the galaxy was stagnating. The Council maintained peace, but at the cost of progress. For 1,000 years, technological advancement has been controlled by a few dominant species who shared their knowledge reluctantly and only with strict limitations. She gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber showing star charts, population data, and technological assessments. In the past 1,000 years of Council rule, the average galactic citizen's quality of life has improved by less than 5%. Disease, poverty, and territorial conflicts persist on thousands of worlds. Meanwhile, human civilization has advanced more in 50 years than most species do in millennia. The data was undeniable. While Council species had remained largely static, human territories showed exponential growth in every measurable category. You're proposing to replace the Council, General Crick stated. I'm proposing to transform it, Sarah replied. Humanity offers a new model of civilization based on shared knowledge, accelerated development, and genuine cooperation between equals. And if we refuse? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then displays throughout the chamber began showing real-time views of Council territories. Every major star system, every important facility, every military installation appeared on the screens. Then you'll discover that the choice has already been made for you, she said softly. The implications were terrifying. Humanity had complete surveillance of Council space. They could monitor any location, access any computer system, and presumably strike any target they chose. But instead of threats, Sarah offered demonstrations of human capabilities. On the screens, damaged worlds from the Void Singer invasion began to change. Dead planets turned green as human terraforming technology restored their atmospheres. Ruined cities rebuilt themselves with impossible speed. The converted Void Singer machines worked alongside human vessels to repair decades of destruction in mere days. This is what we're offering, Sarah explained. Technology that can heal wounded worlds, feed hungry populations, and give every species the tools they need to reach their full potential. Some Council members remained defiant. The rigid orthodoxy, a coalition of species that had ruled for centuries, declared humanity a threat to galactic stability. They attempted to form an alliance to resist human expansion. The alliance lasted exactly 1 week. It began when human signals somehow appeared in the private communications of orthodoxy leaders. Not threatening messages, but simple data packages showing how human technology could solve each species' most pressing problems. The rigid orthodoxy's people saw these transmissions and began asking why their governments were refusing such obvious benefits. When orthodoxy fleets tried to mobilize against human territories, they discovered that their ships couldn't function without the human-designed improvements that had been integrated into their systems over decades. Weapons wouldn't fire, engines wouldn't start, and communication systems produced only static. The final blow came when human vessels appeared in orthodoxy space, not as invaders, but as aid workers. They brought medical supplies to plague-stricken worlds, repaired failing orbital habitats, and rescued colonists from dying star systems. It was impossible to fight an enemy who insisted on helping you. Within 6 months of the Void Singer defeat, over half the galaxy's species had established individual treaties with humanity. These weren't surrender documents, but partnership agreements that gave each species access to human technology in exchange for cultural knowledge and willing cooperation. The results were dramatic. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years found themselves working together on human-designed projects. Planets that had been considered uninhabitable became garden worlds. Diseases that had plagued entire star systems for millennia were cured in days. The old Council structure collapsed not through war or revolution, but through simple obsolescence. Why maintain a slow bureaucratic government when you could join a network that solved problems at the speed of thought. Sarah Chen stood in what had once been the council chamber, now converted into a coordination center for galactic development projects. Representatives from hundreds of species worked together, their efforts synchronized by human neural networks that allowed instant communication across vast distances. "Any regrets?" asked Captain Yorth, who had chosen to serve as a liaison between the old council remnants and the new confederation. Sarah smiled as she watched a holographic display showing construction progress on 1,000 worlds. "None. We gave the galaxy 50 years to prove it could change on its own. When it couldn't, we helped it along. Some species still resist. The hegemony has withdrawn to their core systems and refuses all contact. They'll come around eventually. When they see their neighbors thriving while they stagnate, they'll realize that pride is a luxury they can't afford." "And humanity? What's your ultimate goal in all this?" Sarah's expression grew distant. "Preparation. For what? The galaxy isn't isolated, Captain. There are other galactic civilizations out there, older, larger, more advanced than anything we've encountered. Some are friendly, others aren't." She gestured to another display showing deep space sensor readings, strange signals from distant galaxies, patterns that suggested vast intelligences moving between the stars. The local galactic community has been watching this region for thousands of years, waiting for it to mature enough for contact. The Council's stagnation was keeping the galaxy trapped in an extended childhood. Now that we've demonstrated our potential, they're ready to make contact. Captain Yorth felt a chill run down his spine. More aliens? More advanced than humans? Much more advanced. But that's why we spent 50 years preparing. The galaxy needed to be united and technologically developed before we could take our place in the greater cosmic community. The Council could never have achieved that unity. It was too rigid, too hierarchical, too afraid of change. So everything that happened, the withdrawal, the invasion, the revelations, it was all planned. Sarah's smile was enigmatic. "Let's just say that humanity is very good at long-term thinking. We don't just plan for the next year or the next decade. We plan for the next millennium." As if summoned by her words, the deep space sensors detected something new. A massive object approaching the galactic rim, too large to be a ship, too structured to be natural. "They're here," Sarah said simply. The first intergalactic visitors would arrive within days, and they would find a galaxy united, advanced, and ready to join the cosmic community. Humanity had kept its promise to prepare the galaxy for its next great adventure. The age of isolation was ending. The age of cosmic civilization was about to begin.